Thanks for joining me back on the podcast. It's one thing to run a successful kitchen. Leadership, financial acumen, culinary skills. Goes without saying. It's entirely another thing to open a successful restaurant, put your name on the door, and then keep on opening new successful restaurants. Well, this interview with Chef Julian Medina gives us the inspiration and the how-tos. You're not going to want to miss it. I have a course called the Profit Maximizer, and it'll give you immediately actionable ways to boost your bottom line. I'm talking profit here. Now, my restaurants had double the net profit of the average full-serve restaurant in this country, and you can too, and these are the keys to do it. So check it out at restaurantrockstars.com/profit maximizer. Now, on with the episode.
You're tuned in to the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. Powerful ideas to rock your restaurant. Here's your host, Roger Beaudoin.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. So glad you're here. Thanks for joining us. And Chef Julian, welcome to the show today. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. I love speaking to chefs, the heart of the house, the culinary, the foundation of restaurants, sharing the love through beautiful culinary creations. And I know that's what you're all about. So I can't wait to dive into your restaurant story. And it's fascinating. I guess it begins in Mexico City. So tell us your story.
Yes, I was a boy, 17 years old, finishing high school, didn't know what to study, where to go to school. I find the passion for cooking through my family, through my grandparents, my mother, my father, and explore going to a restaurant and start cooking and be someone's helper with the help of my aunt, that she knew a few different people in the restaurant business, and introduced me to a couple of chefs and started doing some internships and then see if I really wanted to pursue that career. Then I was working there for a few years. And then that's when I decided to move here to New York to come to school, to have a little bit more sense of what exactly I wanted to do in life. Back in the day in Mexico, in that time, there were like a couple of culinary schools. It was not as big as it now after 5 years. And that's why I wanted to immigrate here and find my passion, and which is cooking and run restaurants and come up with different menus, different restaurant, brought anything besides Mexican food. My specialty is Mexican, but lately I opened an Italian restaurant. So I'm a little bit more versatile in my cooking. I love cooking no matter what. And that's how I started.
Huge Mexican food influence, of course. Now, Mexico is known for flavor profiles, very rich foods, very traditional, authentic foods. And obviously that was your early influence, and you brought that to New York. You've started several Mexican concepts, but I think you went to something called the French Culinary Institute in New York. Is French cooking a complete departure from Mexican? This is adding to your craft, of course, but there's got to be a lot of differences.
Yeah, back in Mexico, when I started cooking, I was cooking most of French. So the restaurant that I worked there for 3 years and a half, it was like very classic French, very elegant, old school service, cooking, sauces. So that's how I basically learned how to cook, which by everyone or by in the culinary world, they said that the best mother of all, it's French cooking and French techniques, which I agree 100%. So I started there. And then when I moved here to New York, I started cooking also French, a little bit of Asian, a little bit of everything American, which was very different for me. Obviously, maybe in Mexican, everybody will think that I will just cook Mexican food, and I know how to, and I knew back then how to cook Mexican food, but no, I didn't know anything about how to cook with Mexican ingredients. I actually cook most of my life back then French. So I came here and I went to French Culinary Institute as well. I started cooking Mexican food because back in the day I was a chef de cuisine of a new modern Mexican restaurant that I was hired to. And I literally learned as I went on a daily basis by reading a lot of cookbooks, calling my mother and my parents to get me, or my grandfather to give me some recipes that we had in the past and that they cook. And and how to make them a little bit modernized. And because back in the day, even here in New York, Mexican food, it was not as big as it is now. Only a few different Mexican restaurants, and it was very classic, very Americanized also in a way. And we were the first restaurant when we opened Maya a long time ago, over 25 years ago. The first modern Mexican restaurant that it was just out there. And that's how I basically started actually combining and learning a Mexican ingredients. And to my cooking these days, I combine a lot of French techniques with Mexican ingredients in a way. So that's how I started it.
Sounds like amazing flavor profiles and tastes.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about being mentored. I understand you had a special experience with Chef Richard Sandoval. Now,
Mhm.
tell us about the experience, how it shaped your leadership, and maybe approach to your craft.
It was very funny how we started all. I used to work in Mexico City as we talk. I wanted to experience something to come either here in the States or maybe Europe. One of my friends that he was a cook with me working in the French restaurant, I asked him, "Hey, do you have any connections?" He's, "Yeah, I have a couple of connections, one in New York, one in Spain." He said, "Why don't we just try the first one in New York?" And one of that being one of the managers of Richard Sandoval, which I call immediately in a couple of weeks. He said over the phone, "I don't have anything for you." But the next day, surprisingly, called me back at the restaurant, and I pick up and, "Hey, it's Richard Sandoval again. I was thinking overnight and I would like you to come and work for me. What have you done?" And I'm a line cook and one of this well-known hotel in a very well-known French restaurant. "Okay, when can you come?" I said, 2, 3 weeks. It's okay, done. So
Excellent.
2, 3 weeks
I
later, I
love it.
was here in New York,
Wow.
working for one of his restaurants. Back in the day, it was called Savan. From there, he knew that he wanted to open a Mexican restaurant, Maya, and he brought me in. "You want to come and be my sous chef at the Cocina?" I said, "For sure." I learned as I literally build up the restaurant with him. And then surprisingly, 2 months after we opened, he was out of the kitchen and I took over. I was in control of the kitchen and we got a New York Times review, 2 star, 2 stars, the first Mexican restaurant to get 2 stars.
Amazing.
And
Yes. Great
from
story.
there, we just like went like up, and as well as he did, he built up this like incredible empire that he has on his own. So in a way, he was one of my very important part of my career and in my life just to work with him. And then I started moving after I worked with him for several years around to like Sushi Samba, Socolo, other places. Actually, I went and worked with Richard again until I wanted to do something on my own. And that's how Toloache started in the theater district in the cities. And then after that, I keep opening more restaurants here and there. I have Cuba, Copelia, La Chula, Soledad, El Verano, Morena, which is the Italian restaurant that I just opened recently. And I'm opening at the end of the year over a place in Miami as well. And I have, yeah, El Verano here in Southampton that I opened last year. That's where I am right now. And yeah, there's like 12 restaurants all over, most of them in the city, but that's how I am right now.
That's an extraordinary story. And so many things come to mind, but it's a transition to having excellent culinary skills and being a chef to actually running a business and opening restaurants. And did you get any of the business skills or the business side in culinary school? Did you learn that from Richard watching him open concepts? It's a transition because there are many chefs probably listening in our audience for this, and they've always wanted to put their name on the door. They've worked for other restaurants, they've got experience, but they suddenly realize it's no longer just about cooking, it's about people and it's about marketing and it's about knowing the numbers and it's about running a business, not running a restaurant. How did you start from one and then go to two to go to 12? That's a story unto itself. Can you take us there?
Yeah, in culinary school, they teach you some. Obviously, what better than an experience, right? Learning how to just operate a restaurant and cooking is two different things. It just goes together hand by hand. But if you don't, if first of all, if you go to a restaurant to eat, to have a good time, to have a good service, right? That's number one. Number two is just like the way how you operate it, right? How you manage it, how you hire your staff, how you train your staff, how you just like develop all that process like to open. And then obviously before you open a restaurant, you have to know your finances, how much money you're gonna invest, how much money you're gonna put. Obviously, it's a restaurant business, right? You sometimes
Absolutely.
you can just like, or like any business, you project. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. Then how to project those numbers and put them together into a reality and into actual the business. Putting a PR marketing team together before you open. What are you gonna do? What concept? What's the menu? What tastings? Bringing the staff over. How exactly do you want to detail on the menu, the pricing, the food cost? It's just so much. But at the end of the day, it's a business, and I'll see it as a business. I have fun doing menus and cooking and talking to people about it and hiring people. But at the end of the day, it's a business. And if you don't make money out of like a restaurant or a business, then it's just hard to compensate that passion that you have. Everyone wants to open a restaurant because as a chef, everybody think that you're the best chef ever. I don't consider that myself.
It's pride and it's passion. I get it.
I learned many years ago that I don't cook for me as a chef, but I cook for my clients and my clientele. I learned that I cannot be considered into that, but I like to put out there something that it makes sense for me and make me proud and my team proud, but also the consumer that is going to come and is going to eat and is going to drink and not necessarily they like a spicy. They're not necessarily they like a crazy thing that a lot of the chefs they wanted to put on the menu just because I want to put sweetbreads on the menu. I want to put liver. I want to put this. I want to put that squab or venison. And chefs they trying to be very like stubborn and thick-headed. And I was there like once or twice or did 10 times in my life. But at the end, you learn how to run it as a business. You learn how to run it as a team effort, because the restaurant business is, as I said, to all my employees, my kitchen staff and stuff. I can do it alone. The basketball team, the US just won an Olympic medal and having the best players in the world. But if they're not a team, they won't get it. They won't get it done. So I think that's very important that everybody knows that this is an effort of a team, from starting from the guy who receives the delivery, the guy who preps, the dishwasher, the porter, the bartender, the busser, the cook. So everyone has to be on the same page on this. And if it's not the right top that telling everyone how to, it's just like that one machine has to run, and how everyone is very important in the part of in a restaurant, but everyone has and know their job, how to do it, and they try to do it as well as possible. Then we're not going to survive. They can go and move on from job to job, but that's not the idea, right? The idea is just to have people that they wanted to stay work for you for the longest. And I think that accomplished that very well. I have people that they've been working for me for over 20 years since they came, and I train them how to cook and how to be a manager, how to be however you want it. I think it's just that's what most important thing about the restaurant business is.
So you've built up a tremendous reputation, not only as a chef, but for your cuisine and your restaurants. You've built a team that you just mentioned has been with you for a long time, and that's super
Yeah.
important. You've got loyal clientele, but now you've got restaurants. You've got 12 locations. You're out in the Hamptons. You're in the city. You're going to be heading to Miami. It's like, how much time can you or do you spend sharing that passion, sharing that love, being the inspiration to your team, saying hello to the guests that come to visit you as clients, and still getting into the kitchen and cooking? You must travel. Like, how do you make it all happen?
I'll be honest, I develop all the menus, but it's hard for me to be cooking in a daily basis. Obviously,
Yes.
as I said, I can see myself now as a operator rather than I'm a
Yes.
chef from the list. That's no doubt about it.
Mhm.
I talk to my chefs, talk to my managers, talk to all my staff. It's always important. Putting time in each restaurant it's also very important. And if you're gonna be in one restaurant for 2, 3, 4 hours a day, it doesn't matter what restaurant it is, but just make the best out of it. Talk to your staff, talk to your people, correct if there is something that is not up to my liking. I walk around the dining room and say hi to regulars, say hi to people, because at the end, people, they come to your restaurant, they want to see you. They want to see you that you were there. They want to see you that you're involved. So I try to do as much as I can. Now I'm here at the Southampton because the summer it's busy here, and I'm trying to focus on that. But that doesn't mean that I'm not involved into the details of the restaurants in the city. I'm very involved. I'm very aware of what's going on. And as I said, you have to hire people that you trust, that you know that they're going to do the job as a chef and as a manager, general manager. So you have to be in a point, some sort of a trust these people to run your business as well.
So, city people spend summers in the Hamptons, and they probably follow you, and you probably see some of your New York City regulars at the Hamptons location. Does that happen?
I do. Everyone is here now, especially the last weeks of August, that everybody wants to be out and not in the city, enjoying the last weeks of summer. And yes, most of the people that they come here are from the city. They frequently a lot of my other locations. And I thought to myself I've been here in the Hamptons for like over 12, 13 years.
Hmm.
And I said, I'm never going to open a restaurant out here just because it's my sanctuary in the summer.
Yeah.
And that's what
Oh,
I look
sure.
forward.
Not anymore.
Just relax. It is too, but now it's different. It's just I got this great location in Southampton that I couldn't pass. Not having a lot of Mexican restaurants, up of the scale that I wanted to do it here. Basically, the idea of this restaurant is just having a Mexican dishes, ingredients, but also having local food, local produce, local dock, as local as much as I could. So I've been researching actually a lot of that. And that through all these years that I've been here, I love to come here and cook here because just the produce is way totally different. It's something different that you get in the city or in anywhere. So it's just get local than that. It's just great. We have a lot of farms here in the North Fork and actually have my own garden that I picked a crazy amount of tomatoes this morning, like blackberries and jalapenos and cherry plants and squashes and green peppers, Chinese eggplant. I grow a lot of the stuff every summer and I get super excited about it. So when I'm telling you I pick tomatoes, I pick like over probably 5 pounds, 10 pounds of tomatoes, different types, heirlooms and plums and cherries. So I'm going to bring them to a restaurant tonight to make a specials and to use them there. So what better than that just gets from there. So yeah, it's a totally different caliber of being out here than comparing to the city right now. But that's how the summers are here.
Oh, that's tremendous. Good for you. I hope do you get any time to go to the beach, Julian? I don't think so.
I try. I definitely try. I totally try to go when it's nice and take a few hours for myself. That's very important in being, especially in this business. Just take some time for you and for yourself.
Listen, what would it feel like to lower your operating costs, double your sales, lower staff turnover, create raving fans, and design a menu that literally prints money? Our online restaurant training system will teach you and your staff to rock your restaurant and transform your business. Head on over to restaurantrockstars.com. It'll take you less than 5 minutes to get started. You've got this. I know from my experience that growing your business can mean big-time logistical challenges, like how are we going to keep up with all these local deliveries? Believe me, when I owned restaurants, this was a challenge for me. Let Uber Direct offer you a helping hand. With Uber Direct, you take orders on your website, app, or by phone. Then, drivers from Uber's courier network pick them up at your place and deliver them right to your customer's door. Sounds simple, right? Delivery just got better with Uber Direct. Learn more at uberdirect.com. Yeah, when I was a young person, I spent some time in the Hamptons every summer with my college roommate actually worked out there, so I would visit him in Amagansett. There was a restaurant called Oceans in Amagansett, and it's long since closed. That was probably 20, 30 years ago. But anyway, those are my memories. But I remember the farmers markets and the fresh produce and the farms. My roommate's grandfather lived on the North Fork. So yeah, we saw all of that. Nature's bounty, and the climate is really conducive to growing, isn't it?
Correct. Yes. I think more and more farms are coming in with different stuff. I have one of my favorites. It comes here to the farmers market in West Hampton. I've been going there for over 12 years, 10, 12
Everyone
years.
knows you.
It's the name of the farm is Sang Li Farms,
Mhm.
and it's like a Chinese family. Grandfather got a farm, but put it to the father, and now the son is running it. And I love it because it's just not your typical. They grow tomatoes, they grow zucchinis, but they grow like fresh ginger that you can pick actually, like a young fresh ginger that is just like, it's just magnificent. They have Chinese eggplants, they have Chinese broccoli, they have a lot of that combination of like the roots into like the farms, and it's just beautiful. Actually, I get all my crops from them and my seeds that I planted here in my garden, in my home. But it's just it just doesn't take better than that. It's just that go in there and pick up fresh produce or local fish, and also they have a local chicken farm place that they come. It's great. It's unbelievable.
You have all the resources you need right there outside the door.
That's it.
Wonderful. Let's talk about, you mentioned staff being with you for 20 years. Do you have any labor challenges right now at all? And if so, how are you handling that?
Mhm. The labor is just the most difficult part of the job. Why? Because even before COVID, but after COVID is when it was just like very challenging, as nobody wanted to like work at the time, or either that, or they move and they change careers. They didn't want to go
That's right.
to be on the restaurant business or in anything, whatever they were doing before. A lot of people moved down to South in Florida or anywhere else and start doing something different rather than hustle in the restaurant business. So it's just not easy to do. But having people, and I think back in the day was just, it was, I would say easier, but it was just like people will take more seriously about like when someone wanted to teach them how to cook, how to manage, how to be in the restaurant business, or how to go up in not only just like as a cook or as a dishwasher or as a busser. So a lot of that people that I have now that they're my chefs in restaurants. Basically, they came to the first restaurants being dishwashers. I taught them how to make prep cooks and then cooks,
There
how
you
to
go.
work in line, how to prep, how to place orders, food orders, anything, even though English for the main part of it, how to do inventory, how to cook, how to develop flavors. So I think that's a challenge. But the people that they're now with me, they appreciate that so much because they came into, and I do appreciate that a lot more than anything because they've been with me for quite a while, for several years. And we know and we communicate very well with just very simple of the way of looking or talking or just saying, okay, I want to do this. What are we going to do? Because I'm always asking what we want to do. It's not about what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this. What are we going to do? What should we do? A fish? Should we do a meat? What do we do special? So what do you have in mind? And it's always great just to have a team it's a team effort. It's not me. People and cooks and chefs, they get tired of like cooking the same thing for years. And I think I manage and balance that well because I always have that 20%, 25% of the menu that I change and I try to change with them. The rest, it's a staple. You go to a restaurant because you go to Peter Luger's because you want to eat the best steak. If that's what you like, or the creamy spinach. Those things they cannot change. Exactly the same in a Mexican restaurant or in any of my restaurants, they cannot change, right? The chicken enchiladas are the best because they're there for many years. The huitlacoche truffle quesadilla is one of my signature dishes, and that's a staple on the menu. So there is a few things, but we take that 25% of the rest of the menu that we can play with, depends of the season, and then I incorporate my chefs too in doing that and making dish like we're like as a collaboration. Exactly the same happens with the bar, the managers. Let's come up with a drink. Let's come up with a different, what do you have? Something new, a new tequila, new mezcal, a new sotol. There is a variety and infinity of things that you can make and you can just incorporate a staff into it. I think that's the success of me just having these people for that long Obviously, the turnaround in employees, it's crazy. It's been better lately, but yeah, it was just at one point in the pandemic that it was just like nobody wanted to come and work. And then,
It's challenging.
but now, yeah, but now we're good. I would say that now we're good and we're better for now. But yeah, the challenge was there. Also, minimum wages, all that part of like people that they should be paid what they deserve. It's hard to adjust and accommodate that because it's a business too, and in the restaurant business, the margins of being successful and to profit, they're like so tiny that we need to really focus on how we can just make money out of it. And not only me, but the rest of my staff, they want raises or if they want to be better in certain things or to have a low food cost. And then we work in those little things as the quarters that you get yourself together with the food costs and the payroll costs, and then you get a little bonus. So that's how we managing that for everyone to be in the same pace.
So you have incentives for your team for
Yeah,
performance
you
and how
have
well your
to.
restaurants do. Yep.
You have to.
Fantastic. Let me ask you, when you're hiring, do you hire for experience or is it really the attitude that someone brings to the job? Because you do mention that you're training and that you take pride in training. Is it a combination of both? Because sometimes people bring habits from other places that aren't the way that you operate, but they have experience. You don't have to start from scratch with them, but then I'm eager to learn. I've got a fire inside. I want to be in this business. I want to go as far as I can go,
Yeah.
and I will do whatever it takes for you is an attitude, right? It's like, how do you hire?
I think depends on what I'm hiring. Obviously, people with experience brings a lot to the table, but also I like to give the opportunity to my own people to start from the bottom and then grow. A manager, as a chef, as a cook, as a dishwasher, as a whatever you're doing, I think the most valuable people that I have is the ones that they come from the bottom, exactly the same as I did.
Yes.
And that's how they learn because I'm very hands-on and I'm just like, I learned how to do it the first way, and it was the right way and the good way. So that's how I try to train them. If you're going to do it, you're going to do two things. Either it's the right way or the wrong way, but it's going to take the same amount of time. So just do it the right way from the beginning. So then you don't have to repeat yourself just making anything. Uh, Experienced people is always amazing to bring to the table. Not necessarily experienced people they're gonna bring something else, but it's just it depends of the connection and the click that we have. Bringing an experienced person with the people that runs my restaurant, basically that run my restaurants. I do both. I guess I do 80% in-house growing and 20% experienced people.
Wonderful. That's great. Let's jump over back to the finances. You mentioned obviously the tight margins in this business. And things are harder than they ever have been after the pandemic. We're paying the highest labor costs, primarily in the
Mhm.
kitchen right now, and inflation and the volatility of the markets. And all these things have tended to shrink margins. Yet when you raise prices, you still have to offer value to your guests and not price them away and to stay competitive and to stay relevant. And that is such a balance. Where do you find the ways to move the needle there on your profits?
Let's start from the from labor. Labor is very intense. It's crazy to have a good service, to have a good kitchen crew, to have a good bar crowd in front of the house. You need to have people, right, to run the restaurant. Yeah, we cannot hesitate on just bring the certain amount of people that we think that is good for like the front of the house and the back of the house. But it's been a challenge. Therefore, if you also the cost, let's talk about a little bit about the cost of food. Cost of food has just been ridiculous, insane, not only for the restaurant business, but you can go to any supermarket in
Oh,
New
yes,
York,
absolutely.
anywhere, and you grab the basics and you don't walk out with less than $150. And it's not me, it's everyone else. The cost of fish, food, produce, dry goods, anything that you buy now, whether it's in the supermarket or we buy it for the restaurant business, it just went up. Liquor costs, obviously, we use fresh ingredients. We squeeze our lime juice, lemon juice, oranges. We squeeze it. We do puree for cucumber, pineapple, you name it. That's also labor intense. And
It is.
also
It
you
is.
have to pay
Uh-huh.
for the limes that either they're come from California, they come from Mexico. If something happens in Mexico about avocados, about limes, about this, and there is like a mafia kind of thing, you end up paying over $100 for a case of 48 avocados. One of the staples of Mexican cooking is guacamole. How can you compare, like, how can you price it right? That it's just guacamole, right? People are like, it's just guacamole. Go buy an avocado at the
Yeah.
supermarket
Oh,
and
yeah.
see how much you pay.
Avocados are very expensive.
Plus,
Right.
people, they don't understand. You have labor, you have food costs, you have liquor costs, you have to pay rent. Insurance is through the roof. Rents in New York now, they're not easy.
Oh,
You get
incredible.
an escalation,
Yeah.
3% every year in any lease that you sign. You get an increase of 3% every year for rent. You get the insurance that now the landlords ask for. They're ridiculous. Or they ask for more and more millions to like anything. You have workman compensation. You have 1,000 different insurance that you pay in a monthly basis. You have real estate taxes that you're entitled when you sign the lease. You have to pay for part of that building that you rent because
I
you're
had
in the
no
bottom.
idea.
You have to pay a real estate tax. Yes.
Wow.
On
On top of the rent. Yeah. Unbelievable.
on top of the rents, whatever you pay from your rent, it just escalates a lot more with that. You have to pay gas. You have to pay electric. You have to pay water. So you have to pay for any other those details that you never know. It's like renting an apartment. You have to pay for utilities. That being said, now you just spend whatever all the money that you make a week and a month in the quarter, basically on paying all these things that I mentioned. The margin back in the day was like, if you managed to mark like 20% of that margin, take it as a profit, you were king. You were God. But now you barely break 15 and then you're God. So that being said, that's why people don't understand how expensive it is just to go out for dinner. Not necessarily because it's because you need to make sure that you can survive and then just pay your employees on time, your probators on time, your landlord on time, your everything else. Taxes also are like insane right now. And that's how complicated it's just been. Just like, plus you want to talk about the city. The city also charges you like for everything. You have the health department come and then you can get an A, but still you get fined for it because you have not they always going to have points of you, and then you have to pay for those points that you got it wrong. Garbage. You need to get picked up garbage every day. It's not cheap. So it's just a matter of like things that piled up into your P&L that at the end of the month, at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year, at the end of 6 months, you really need to pay attention to it. I try to pay attention on a weekly basis. And if you need to adjust, then you can adjust right away instead of waiting for the month.
That's right. Absolutely.
So
you're taking regular inventory, figuring out what your prime costs are and all that sort of thing on a regular basis.
We do that on a weekly basis. Yeah. And we try to do a P&L in a weekly basis.
How often you're emphasizing the importance of knowing what every item contributes for the bottom line. And that starts with costing out the menu. So that, am I making money on this? Am I not making money on this with the volatility of the pricing and inflation and everything? Is that happening in your restaurants fairly often? My restaurant sold tons of fried foods, but what a hassle dealing with the fryer oil and cleaning hoods from all that grease. Restaurant Technologies handles everything end to end. They deliver, filter, monitor, collect, and recycle your waste cooking oil. Their AutoMist system reduces the fire risk with automated hood and flue cleaning, hassle-free. As a customer, you'll save 10 to 15% on insurance premiums and even get bonuses for new customer referrals. Go to rti-inc.com or call 866-399-3639 to get started. Your restaurant menu is your most important and effective marketing tool. Check out TerraSlate. TerraSlate offers waterproof, rip-proof, antimicrobial menus that are easy to clean and last. TerraSlate leads the industry, shipping menus to every state in over 100 countries with a super-fast one-day turnaround and free overnight shipping. Try TerraSlate. Your team will love them. Go to terraslate.com. That's TerraSlate.com restaurantrockstars.com.
But we have to do it. We have one person dedicated to that and cost every single item on the menu. And because otherwise, can you price something that you don't even know how much you paid for it, right?
Exactly.
And how much is
Thank you.
I mean, you buy a lobster or you buy a fish. You have I don't know, any kind of chicken. You pay for those bones. You pay for that skin. You pay for that anything that is just goes to waste. You pay for all that. Making sure that you have a cost-effective menu item or whatever, as irrelevant it could be. It's important to know that you are being smart and being like having at least your 30% on food cost there. Whether it's anything that is 30%, yeah, but you have other menu items that they're below 30%, which is fine. Nothing above. And that's why the steak houses is just they're pricey because they don't even run a 30% food cost on the steak because the steak it's super expensive.
That's
So they
much more.
probably run maybe 35-40%, I would say. That's why the sides are pricier. The salad is pricier, just to balance it out in a way that you can just cut through the food cost and make that even 30% or below. We're trying to run in all the restaurants our food cost 25% when we can, but
if you can
but
stay
no
there in
above
that
that.
sweet spot. Yeah.
Yeah, not above that, because we need that in order to compensate with payroll. That is just that labor you're never going to get. Back in the day it was 20%. You're never going to get it to 20%. It's very hard. It's very hard just not to be there. You run it by 33%, and you're winning right there.
Thank you for pointing all that out. That is so important for our audience to hear, the importance of taking regular inventory and costing out your menu and knowing where your profits are coming from and trying to optimize profit across that whole menu and delivering amazing service also. Everyone listening to this has heard of Iron Chef America. Can you tell us about that experience?
Yeah, I was invited, I don't know, several years ago to cook in Iron Chef. It was a great experience. I just basically go through the whole process of going to that and until the day that you actually go to the studio and just you're ready for it. As a chef contender, they give you 3 options of possibilities of the secret ingredient, and you have to come up with 5 dishes on each ingredient that they give you, but you don't know what ingredient is going to be the day of. It's fair and square for everyone. You have 1 hour to cook and to compete, and it's just time, an hour. Obviously, it's TV. It's a show,
Yes.
but you have an hour. You have an
Okay.
hour,
Yeah.
and then from there, you either when you finish that hour, they ask you to plate 1 of each dish, minimum 5. If you want to do more, you can do more, but minimum 5. So only 1 dish for camera, for beauty shots and all that stuff. And then when that is over, then you present it to the judges and then you cook the rest for them. But you have everything prepped already. And then either you or the Iron Chef goes first. Usually the contentant goes first because they can adjust or do a tweaking any of the recipes. So that's an advantage I would say for them. And that's it. So you really mess it up like within that hour, then you're going to be into trouble at the end. In my example, one of my sous chefs, that he's my chef actually here in El Verano and here in Southampton and Soledad, and he's going to be the chef also in Miami. He was just one of my sous chefs, and he was in charge of only making a dessert, 1 dessert. We had to make a chocolate panna cotta with a Mexican chocolate, some sort of a sauce and foam. He messed up the recipe. He was nervous. Obviously, it's very nerve-wracking, just basically
Right.
cooking.
I can imagine.
Cooking between 10 cameras everywhere around you. It's hard and it's stressful. You are in your zone and in your game plan, but then he messed it up in the recipe of the panna cotta. We had to take everything out. He forgot to add the cream. It was just but that's how it is. Everyone has an hour. You train. I trained a lot. We trained together. But even though when you train and you do everything ahead of time, you get nervous. And it was great. I lost for a point on originality, not in taste. And I think I beat like Jose for a few points in taste. I think I did pretty well. But I think I should have won.
What a great experience. Thanks so much for sharing, Chef. That's exciting. Cool under pressure, creativity, resourceful. You got 1 hour, you got to put it all together and
Mhm.
keep it all together. Plate presentation, flair,
Yeah,
ingredients, choices. So much
yeah.
goes into that. But wow, how gratifying something like that is. It's also an
Yeah.
accolade. That's tremendous.
Yeah, it was fun. The battle, it was actually Mexican chocolate. It was good to have to cook dishes, savory dishes, and with Mexican chocolate. It was fun.
Chef, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's been such a pleasure talking cooking with you and talking restaurants with you. You're definitely committed to your craft and a testament to what's possible in this business. If you've got a dream and a passion, you can build a restaurant empire. I wish you
That's
the
it.
best of success.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate your time here, and thank you.
Thank you so much to our audience for tuning in. That was the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. We can't wait to see you in the next episode. Stay tuned and stay well. Restaurant Equippers has served independent food service operators nearly 60 years. They have low everyday prices and huge warehouse stores in Ohio, Michigan, and New Jersey. Shop for your restaurant equipment at equippers.com or call 800-235-3325. Their experienced specialists are standing by with thousands of name brand products available for immediate store pickup or shipment. Restaurant Equippers is a family owned business just like yours. Give them a call for all your equipment and supply needs or visit them at equippers.com.